what we're hearing again from CNN, to whom these Democrats talk, is that if you step out of line, you get it. Like the White House is still the White House. Biden is still the president. And so there's a reason we haven't seen more than 17 come out. And here is that reason, SOT 23.
One thing that many of the folks that we spoke with that they are so furious about is this idea that when people have gone to these inner circle of advisors around the president to express some of these concerns, that they were not taken seriously or really brushed aside. This is what one top Democrat told me. They said everyone who expresses any level of suspicion or contrary views, they call everyone and they beat the shit out of them and say, stay on message.
Whoa, CNN with the salty talk. So what could the plan be, right? If they're too afraid, if Obama and Pelosi just had a conversation but nothing came of it, if Clyburn's still digging in, though, saying if he changes his, like, now the whole media is about to turn to Milwaukee and start talking about Trump and his VP pick. So, I mean, it's sort of like a perfect storm for Donald Trump, right? Like, he loves these rough waters. He's doing some smooth sailing. He's like, churn and burn, keep it going. Like, stick it out, Joe, you got this. Don't let them bully you out of office.
The plan is through a combination of sticks and carrots to get Biden to choose to leave the race, because the only way to get him out is for him to choose it. The problem is that the sticks aren't big enough to hurt Biden, and the carrot doesn't exist. There is no incentive that they could give him. What they're trying to say is, by puffing him up and pretending that his total failed term in office has been some great accomplishment, that he will therefore preserve his legacy by stepping down now. But he won't. He is already seeking the presidency. The history books already will say, if he were to step down, that he wanted to get it and he was thrown out because he has dementia, because he couldn't do the job, because he was a failure, because he was an embarrassment. That's already baked in. So the horrible situation for the Democrats, some news just broke. There's a report out that Democrat donors are freezing some $90 million in funds in the biggest Biden super PAC.
From the New York Times.
Well, sure. I mean, good luck. Okay, you can freeze those funds. What does Joe Biden have to lose by sticking it out? What does Joe Biden have to gain?
Legacy.
By the legacy that's already completely tarnished, and that the Democrats, by playing this game of chicken, have already tarnished, because now, any way you slice it, he will have been chased out of the nomination, out of the White House probably, and he'll go down as a man who left the job because his brain had turned to applesauce. So if I'm Joe Biden, what I do is I say, okay, you're going to freeze my $90 million. Okay, you're going to keep running these nasty pieces about me. Sounds good. I'm going to turn my phone off until late August. And then when I am inevitably and formally the Democrat nominee, you're all going to come groveling back. You Democrat donors are going to have no option other than to unfreeze my money. You scoundrels in the press, you jackals, are going to have no option but to play nice with me again and try to help me win the White House, because I'm the guy you got. And I've already won the nomination. There's no procedural way for you to take it from me. So good luck, guys. Sounds good. I'm going to go on vacation for a month. See you in late August.
Mm-hmm. He did say something interesting last night. I actually wanted to make this point. In addition to the long, rambling stream of consciousness talking, he repeatedly did the whisper. And then he did the angry Joe. You know, it was the lack of emotional regulation that we saw time and time again last night. He did make a point about releasing his delegates. Let me just give you a couple of examples of what I'm talking about before I play it. Let's listen to SOT 12.
I love my staff, but the ad thing, no one's saying that. No bullshit. None of you thought that would happen. None of you thought that would happen. Everybody says, we want somebody else. That's the democratic process. It's not going to happen. More children are killed by the bullet than any other cause of death. The United States of America.
By the way, that last point is not true. It's motor vehicles. But you saw that. And then you saw that moment where he was talking about the guns. They came out of nowhere. He just kind of tacked it on. And you could see he kind of thought he was having a badass moment. Here's a little bit more in SOT 9.
Control guns, not girls. I mean, the idea We're sitting around. This is where Kamala's so good as well. We're sitting around. More children are killed by a bullet than any other cause of death. The United States of America. What the hell are we doing? What are we doing? We got a candidate saying, promise the NRA, don't worry, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do anything. You got a Supreme Court that is what you might call the most conservative court in American history. This is ridiculous.
All right. So you see and it just like out of nowhere was the crescendo, right? And then back down. And then finally, when asked about the delegates, which is really the most important thing, here is what he said. They're all pledged to him. They're his to hold on to. Very hard for them to break with him. Or is it, South 13?
Obviously, they're free to do whatever they want, but I get overwhelming support. Overwhelming support. I won, I forget how many votes I won in the primary. Overwhelming. And so tomorrow, if all of a sudden I show up at the convention, everybody says, we want somebody else, that's the democratic process. It's not going to happen.
Even if that means they vote for someone else?
Sure.
It's not going to happen. Is it going to happen, Michael? What's your prediction now?
It's not going to happen. And part of the reason I think it's not going to happen is because Joe Biden, who can't remember people's names, who's been looser with his language than usual, he's pretty careful with his language there. The reporters are asking him a technical question. Do you release the delegates, or will you possibly release your delegates? And he gives a rather informal and ambiguous answer. I mean, come on, man, they're free. They're free. There's free will. They're free to do. It's free country, and that. And yeah, I mean, look, man, the democratic process, and there's the process, but it ain't going to happen. You see, despite the quiet little odd whisper, you see old tough guy Joe come back there. He says, I'm not giving you the answer you want. I'm not saying that I'm going to release my delegates. They're my delegates, and I won that primary, and you're not going to take it from me, you jerks. And so he's trying to balance it. As you point out, he can't regulate his emotions and his rhetoric as well as he used to. But in that answer, I see a lot of prevarication. I see a lot of euphemism. I see a lot of blurry language, and I see a guy who is taking this thing to the convention.
His team really just needs to continue treading water, because this week, we're all going to be focused on the RNC. And then we were talking about this yesterday. Then come the Olympics for 2 weeks, which will dominate, the news. They'll find some time for this for sure. But this is not rating. We took a look at some of the ratings on the liberal media channels. They're not doing gangbusters. And in fact, they move away from the story now a lot sooner than they used to, because the Democrats are depressed. Like it's doing well, I think, in conservative media, but the Democrats are depressed, which is another incentive for them to turn away from it. So the longer he can draw it out, the more likely he weathers the storm, which does suggest the Democrats need something big to happen if they want to get rid of him. And I just don't know what that is. Like, Obama can't control this from behind the scenes. This is an in front of the scenes kind of thing. I'll give you the last thought on it.
It's going to take more than some op-eds from George Clooney. The real hope in all of this, a real glimmer, a bright spot in politics, is sometimes we conservatives believe that the Democrats, they just control everything. They've got it all so locked in. We have no hope of ever getting power back. And I think they were completely caught with their pants down here. They have no idea what to do. They're scrambling. They're making threats. They're eating each other alive. And they still can't make any progress. For now, the Democratic voters have spoken. Joe Biden is their nominee. And I am totally in support of that fact.
As the kids say, and I am here for it. If you weren't following the news, a massive hit to the US dollar just came in June when Saudi Arabia did not renew its 50-year petrodollar deal with the U.S. Since 1974, Saudi Arabia has sold oil exclusively in U.S. dollars, and that was huge to America's global economic dominance. Now they want options other than the dollar. So ask yourself, if there's less demand for the dollar, what happens next? Look, it's reasons like this that Americans are looking at Birch Gold Group. For over 20 years, Birch Gold has helped tens of thousands of Americans protect their savings by converting an IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. To learn more, text the word MK to 989898 and claim your free, no obligation info kit on gold. That's MK to the number 989898. Birch Gold has earned the trust of many with their education-first approach, their thousands of happy customers, and so many 5-star reviews. Consider protecting your savings with gold before the dollar plunges any further. Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.